This is a redo of February 19th, 2021, How's My Swimming Career? Storytime 8. I am redoing that video because the original video was very poorly made and had plenty of errors, had awful advice, and I left out a few things I want to include. So let's begin. I'm not a very athletic person. I've never been too much into sports, as I prefer to just sit around and play video games or write all day. However, that isn't to say that I've never done sports. I've done plenty of sports, but the sport that I personally enjoyed the most and spent the most time on was swimming. So today, I'm going to discuss my swimming career. I'm Zach, this is Storytime 19th on May 7th, 2021. So let's start off with some backstory. So I want to mention a kind of history regarding me in sports. So as mentioned earlier, I was never into sports. I did play t-ball with some friends from church when I was 5. Our Sunday school teacher was our coach. I don't remember too much from it, as it was over a decade ago. I also played soccer when I was in the 4th and 5th grade. I played a total of 4 seasons of soccer, my first being in the fall of 2013, and the last being in the spring of 2015. I was the goalie in my first season, but the other 3, I was just defense. I did very well. I even scored a few goals throughout my soccer career, even though I played defense. But after 4 seasons, I was just tired of soccer and ready to quit, so my parents let me. I then spent almost my entire 6th grade school year without being involved in any sports. But I kind of want to backtrack a little. I want to jump to maybe about a year after T-ball, that being 2010. So in 2010, my parents registered me to be part of a swim team. It wasn't like an actual swim team like the one I joined in 6th grade. Rather, it was just a summer thing that taught us how to swim, as I was only like 6 years old. This would be where I would learn to swim, but not just that. But I also learned to swim freestyle and backstroke when I was a part of this group when I was 6. This would end sometime in September of 2010, and I would not get into the actual sport of swimming for another 6 years. So that kind of brings us to how I began swimming. So as mentioned before, I did not do any sports throughout 6th grade. Of course I did soccer in 4th and 5th, but that's all sports I did, and so did I do with t-ball and swimming back in like very early childhood. So the way I began swimming was actually by my little sister, so she loves sports. After all, she is a very athletic girl. I'm the exact opposite of her, as I could care less about sports. However, she wanted to try swimming, so that's what she did. However, my parents also wanted me to start swimming too, as I wasn't involved in any sports. I was pretty skeptical about this at first, but they registered us on the swim team and I believe sometime in late May or early June of 2016. I should note that this swim team was a completely different team from the one I was a part of when I was 6 years old. My parents chose here because it was close to home and it was year-round, although they were only forcing us to do it that summer. So now that the backstory is over, let's discuss the very beginning. So first off, let's discuss tryouts. This is really just to see where each new swimmer was. Our tryouts were on Saturday, June 4th, 2016. Of course, both of us knew how to swim, and I could even swim backstroke. This would also be where we met our coach. Now, I don't have much memories of him, as we only had him for a month. But from the month I spent with him, he was a really cool guy, and I really wish I had him longer. He would be the coach who taught me breaststroke and butterfly, and he also taught me other basics in swimming like how to dive and how to do flip turns. So now let's talk about the first swim practice. It took place June 6, 2016. So this practice was rather unusual, as there was actually a thunderstorm. The pool we swam at was an indoor pool, so therefore we could still technically do practice. However, it really was just more of a social event. The coach introduced us to the team, and that's basically how it went. But then the storm went away, and after about maybe 25 minutes, so we were actually in the pool for the remainder of practice. So nothing really happened throughout the month of June. The 21st was of course my 12th birthday, and the last day of 6th grade was on the 7th, but that's all that happened. However, I did become friends with a kid named Aki during this time. Of course that's not his actual name, but he requested to go by this name since he's pretty wary about being on the internet and all. Now, he had just finished his 5th grade, as I should note that we're now done with the 2015-2016 school year now. He's about 6 months younger than me, so around this time he was only like 11 and a half years old. He really liked anime, Annoying Orange, and video games, so we got pretty along, as I also like video games and anime, but not Annoying Orange. God, that fruit pisses me off. Now before I go on, I want to talk about the 3 different pools we swam on, as well as the difference between short and long course season. Then, I want to discuss the group system. So we swam at 3 different pools. The first one I want to mention was the pool we had tryouts and the first practice at. We swam here on Mondays and Wednesdays. This pool was pretty warm overall, so getting used to the water each practice was never too bad. It was also 25 yards long. I should note that I'll refer to it as the 25-yard pool for the remainder of this story time. The second pool I want to mention was the outdoor pool, which I'll refer to as the outdoor pool. So this pool was 50 meters long, more than twice than the previous pool. So obviously, this pool was massive. So massive, we never even used all the lanes. It was, of course, only used during long course season, though. During the long course season, we swam at this pool on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Finally, let's discuss the final pool. Now, this pool we did not actually use until around February of 2017. So for now, it's not going to be used. We used it on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays during the short course season. It was 25 meters long. This pool was also cold literally all the time. Like, I swear, this pool made me feel like we were in Minnesota or somewhere up north because of how cold it was. Damn, it was cold. Now let's discuss the difference between short and long course seasons. So let's discuss long course season first, since that's where we're at right now in the story time. So, long course season lasts from April to July. During the season, meets would be in 50-meter pools. They didn't have to be outside, but all the long course meets I participated in were outside anyways. Short course, on the other hand, would last from September to March. All the meets were obviously indoor meets, since it was too cold to swim outside. These were all in 25-yard pools, as the main difference between the two seasons is that long course is in meters, and short course is in yards. Anyways, a good majority of my meets were in the short course, which I'll discuss later. I should also mention that throughout the month of August, we took a break from swimming. After all, it is the month school starts back, so it makes sense. Now for the group system. Now we had a total of 5 groups, which I'll simply refer to as groups 1, 2, 3, 4, and the seniors. So group 1 was where me and my sister were at. It's for beginners. You'd have practice between 4:30 to 5:30. For group 2, which is the group me and my sister were in for the most of our career, it was for those who could do all 4 strokes correctly, flip turn, and dive at a meet. The easiest way to get promoted was to simply do a 100 IM at a meet, which is what I'll discuss more later on. They practiced alongside Group 1, but practiced until 5:45. Then Groups 3, 4, and the seniors all practiced together. To get to Group 3 and Group 4 and the seniors, you had to basically be dedicated and be able to go really fast. I almost made it to Group 3, but a certain event that happened in late March of 2018 prevented that. Their time is kind of irrelevant to me, so I won't really mention it. So now let's discuss the end of the June 2016. This would be when our coach left the team. So he had been with the team for about 1 to 2 years. Obviously, I don't know him since I only had him for a month. I didn't know him much since I only had him for a month. I believe he left because he was moving to Texas for something. I can't really remember. But anyways, I also remember that for the last practice we had with him, it was more of a party. But not only that, but the best swimmer on our team was also leaving. Now this swimmer, he left because he was actually training for the Olympics. So he moved to Mecklenburg, which is where he could get some really serious training from coaches who were either in the Olympics or coach Olympians. Yeah, he was crazy. So before the party started, he actually was challenged to do a 50 free as fast as possible. The entire team, as well as the parents, watched him. I think he did it in like 25 seconds. And I should note that his record was like 23 or 22. For reference, my fastest 53 I ever did in my entire swimming career was 29.5 seconds. And the world record is 20.16. So yeah, this dude was insane. Afterwards, we had our party and said goodbye to our coach and the best swimmer. So that kid I mentioned, yeah, he actually is one reason I got inspired to try harder at swimming. So I obviously was forced to swim. However, I actually enjoyed it a lot. After seeing this kid do a 50 free in 25 seconds, I really wanted to get better at swimming. So this would be when I really started getting into swimming. That's why I attended like 5 practices a week, simply because this dude inspired me to get better. So now we reached July. So we had 2 temporary coaches throughout July, one for the 25-yard pool and the other for the outdoor pool. We would only have these coaches for a month, since August is when we took a break. I don't remember much from these coaches, as it, after all, was like almost 5 years ago. July 2016 would also mark the month that me and Aki had our first sleepover. It was at my house. It was really fun. I also recorded my first ever collab for a YouTube video, which Aki joined in. Of course the video is private now, but it's still really cool knowing that was my first ever collab on YouTube. Now we reach August of 2016, so obviously, this would be the month that we took a break. We'd get back to swimming in September. The break was needed, as having practiced 5 days a week was a lot, even if I was enjoying it a lot. But overall, I enjoyed my break. We went to the beach during this time, and I also started the 7th grade as well. Also during this time, my sister quit swimming. Overall, she didn't really enjoy it that much. She also had a hard time making friends, as no girls really talked to her. However, I didn't quit, as I enjoyed it and wanted to continue to swim. I also had met many new friends on the team, including Aki, so therefore, I continued to swim. So now let's jump to September of 2016. So this month, we finally got our new permanent coach, although he only lasted a year. So this coach, I remember him for being pretty nice overall. While he was nice, he wasn't exactly the best coach. He practiced and almost only practiced endurance. So while I could easily swim almost 500 free, I didn't exactly have the best technique, and therefore I couldn't swim faster. And I should go ahead and state that yes, having good technique and swimming fast are directly correlated. But overall, I really liked this coach. I think he honestly was perfect for me, as I was not serious and never was serious about swimming. While I was forced to do it, I found enjoyment in it and did it for fun and to challenge myself, making this coach perfect as he was overall laid back and I think he understood why I swim, unlike a future coach I would have. So throughout really the rest of 2016, nothing too much happened regarding swimming. Nothing memorable really happened. However, I will mention that I started to really want to do meets. So my mom signed me up for a meet at the 25-yard pool that would take place on January 7th, 2017. However, I never did this meet, as it actually got canceled due to snow. Now, if you live in a state as south as Florida to as north as Virginia, then literally a centimeter of snow could get every event canceled. I live in North Carolina, so that's exactly what happened. My first meet was not actually be until March 4th, 2017. So at the end of 2016 and even early 2017, nothing happened much regarding swim. Although my sister did come back in January of 2017, that's all that really happened. However, March 4th, 2017 was my first meet. So at this meet, I did a 100 IM, a 100 freestyle, and a 100 backstroke. I don't remember my times, but I do remember that I did very well on all of them. This would be where I got promoted in Group 2, but that's not even what was so significant about the event. What's really significant about it was that I actually got to participate in the boys' IM medley. So I got to swim with 3 other boys, who were all in Group 4 by the way. I did freestyle, although it probably would have been a better idea for me to do breaststroke since that is actually my best stroke. We got second, but we all did very well, and I'd say I'm proud of all of them. We all swam really well. So then I would also have to have my second meet just 3 weeks later on March 25th, 2017. So this meet was really interesting, specifically because of the pool we swam at. So we swam at the Mecklenburg Aquatics pool. This is in downtown Charlotte, by the way. So when I say this pool is massive, I mean it. In fact, it's so big, Michael Phelps, yes, the best Olympian in history, himself once swam here. So for this event, I can't exactly remember the events I did, but I believe I did the 50 backstroke, the 100 IM, and I don't even remember the other. It was a massive event though. Like there were like 11 heats for each event. This meant that there was like 20 to 45 minutes between each event. Wow, that's a lot of time to waste. I mostly spent my time between events either in the warm-up pool warming up or on the bleachers playing Pokemon or something. Now, my sister and mom were somewhere else, I don't know, but my dad and 2 grandmothers came. I remember afterwards, we went to a Buffalo Wild Wings on our way home. I remember just casually sitting there eating chicken wings while watching basketball. Good times. So now we're done with the short course season. Now, it's once again back to the long course season. So throughout April and May, nothing much happened in terms of swimming. Of course, a ton in May regarding school happened, but overall, in April and May 2017, nothing regarding swimming really happened. So since we're in kind of a stalemate regarding swimming, let's talk about how comfortable I was with each stroke. So my favorite stroke was breaststroke. It was always my favorite stroke, since I'm naturally breaststroke footed. I hated pointing my toes, so it's a great stroke. My least favorite stroke was backstroke. I hated getting water up my nose, and I hate being on my back. My second favorite stroke was freestyle and third butterfly. Now my strokes were also in the same order, so you could tell that I was a breaststroker. However, I also had butterfly arms. I had great arm technique regarding butterfly, but dolphin kicks are what I hated. That's why I really hated butterfly. Not only is butterfly just a demanding and challenging stroke, but I also struggled with dolphin kicking, and later on that struggle with dolphin kicking would result in me getting a little bit of trouble at meets. So let's move on to June 2017, more specifically June 10th and 11th. So this was my first long course season meet. It took place at the outdoor pool, a home meet, just like the one in Charlotte. It was a massive meet. In fact, it was even bigger than the one from Charlotte. So some events were even like 13 heats long. In fact, it was so massive that Mecklenburg Aquatics attended this meet and made up about 3/4 of the participants. Wow. Obviously, I was in Heat 1 for everything, as I had no times in long course, but overall, it was great. I can't remember exactly what events I did, as it has been almost 4 years since this meet took place. So long, I can't even remember anything I did. I mean, this honestly was not a very significant event. Nothing really crazy even happened. Now I want to mention how the summer worked. So for the summer, me and my sister were group 3. Yes, we practiced with group 3. It mostly came from my mom being really enthusiastic about us swimming and that she wanted us doing more practices. So groups 3, 4, and 5 actually have morning practices. No, they weren't at stupid times like 6 in the morning though. They were at like 10 or till 11:30. Still kind of stupid times as I'm a night person, but nonetheless, we still did them. So therefore, throughout the summer of 2017, I did a total of 8 practices a week. I should note that we stopped doing practices on Saturdays. We also would stop being group 3 in September. Now we reached June 21st, 2017. This would be my 13th birthday. So the way the meets worked was that if you were 12 and under, you were separated into your own events. For teens, they had their own events. Since I was 13 now, I was with all the teens. And I should note that it wasn't a split like 13-14. No, it was 13 and up. So I could literally go up against a big muscular 17-year-old black dude, which actually did happen. I'll talk about that later. So now let's discuss my 4th meet. It took place on July 8th and July 9th, 2017. So it was literally just like the last meet. It was a massive meet and at the same pool. However, what's different is that I was 13 now, so I was no longer the oldest person swimming. In fact, I was probably the youngest person among everyone now, as I had only been 13 for like 2.5 weeks. So for this meet, I don't remember much, just like the previous meet. I mean, you gotta give me some slack. I'm almost 17 years old. Why would I remember everything I did when I turned 13? However, there are 2 events in particular that I remember really well. So the first one I want to talk about would be the 50 free. So the day before, my mom timed me, and I managed to do it in 40 seconds. However, at this meet, I did it in 39. I was quite impressive and really satisfied with it. The next event, though, not so much. So it was a 200 IM. This would actually be the first event I got disqualified in, or DQ'd. So I got DQ'd from this because I believe I did a flip turn when transitioning from backstroke to breaststroke. I did this at my first meet with the 100 IM, but I didn't get DQ'd for that since I was only 12 at the meet. However, they're much stricter with 13 a month, so therefore, I got DQ'd. So now I want to mention my mom's attitude towards me and my sister swimming. She was very passionate about us swimming, maybe a bit too much. She often tried to have us watch tons of videos and often tried to backseat coach, if that's what you want to call it. However, she stopped doing this after one situation around mid-July of 2017. So we were at practice with group 3 one morning, and mom got a bit cocky. She thought we weren't trying, so she swam with us. However, she could barely even handle a 50, as she was just so exhausted. Haha, lady, that's what you get. Needless to say that she stopped backseat coaching after this. Although I will say though, the pool was a bit warmer than usual that morning, so that's probably why she struggled to do the 50. Not just because she didn't have the endurance. It was probably just because it was so warm. I want to also mention that me officially being a part of our swim team's boys relay team. So remember when I joined 3 group 4 boys in that relay in my first meet? Well, my coach was really impressed with it, so he put me on our team. Our team included me, a 14-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 12-year-old. I was, of course, the breaststroker. Now let's jump to the final long course meet of the season, as well as the last long course meet I ever did. So this meet took place July 22nd, 2017. It was a lot smaller than the previous meets. In fact, so small there was even some events that only had 1 meet. So for this event, I actually remember what I did. I believe I did the I-helm relay with the rest of the relay team, the 100 butterfly, the 100 breaststroke, and the 200 IM. So the relay went really well. We only got second again, but it was still fun. As for the individual events, the 100 breaststroke and the 200 IM went well, but the 100 butterfly I got DQ'd on. So I'm just going to go ahead and mention that the 100 butterfly is the event I got DQ'd in the most. Now, I hate butterfly. As stated earlier, it's such a tiring and demanding stroke. I got DQ'd for not pointing my toes when dolphin kicking. But what sucks is even more is that literally every time I did a 100 butterfly, I got DQ'd on it. This curse would be broken one day, but it would take quite a while. This was a short meet, so after the meet was finished at around 4 o'clock, our coach took our team out to eat. Me and the relay boys sat at our own booth. Now, I don't remember exactly what we talked about, but I do remember it being pretty humorous. So I'm not sure what we were saying, but the 15-year-old and the 12-year-old were having an argument over a basketball game. It was a joking argument, nothing serious. But then, they both went to the bathroom together, probably to throw paper towels at each other or something. Me and the 14-year-old just laughed and cracked jokes over them. As for what we ate, our table got a gigantic plate of chicken tenders and fries for all of us. We all split it equally between the 4 of us. So that's about maybe 6 chicken tenders each and a full plate of fries each. All of the food was gone in less than 2 minutes. So that was a pretty nice way to end the long course season. Of course, in August 2017, we had our break. So during this break, our relative's coach passed away. As a result, he had to stop coaching and go up to Ohio, where he's from, so he could take care of his family. This meant that we had a new coach. And also, I absolutely support this coach's decision to move up north. I think that it was the right thing to do, and I'm very proud that he cares about his family, and I hope he's doing all right. He was really cool. So now this new coach, oh god, let's just say he was something. I'll explain more later. Also in August of 2017, I would begin the 8th grade. So now we're in September of 2017. This would of course be our first month with our new coach. I actually really enjoyed him at first. He was much more focused on technique and less strict on endurance. Warm-up especially proves this. For warm-up, we were only doing a 200 free rather than a 500 free. However, as time progressed, my thoughts would change about him. So now I want to jump to October 28th, 2017. So we had a meet about 25 minutes away from downtown Charlotte. This meet was one of my favorite meets I did. The reason would be because I actually enjoyed everything I did, and I did it well, like really well. So I did 3 events, the 50 free, the 100 IM, and the 100 backstroke. So let's start off with the big one, the 50 free. This was probably one of the best events I ever did. I should also mention this and the 100 breaststroke are my favorite events. I managed to blow it out of the water with this one though. I managed to get 32.5 seconds. Yeah, and just 3 months before I was doing it in 39. This was however in yards, and that 39-second one was in meters. So my 39-second one in yards was roughly translates to about 37 seconds. Yeah, I improved a ton, and that's with a month break. I think I should only breathe like twice for the entire 50, so that's probably why. My IM was also forgettable, but my backstroke was something. So when I did this event in my first meet, it was like a minute 55. Doing it now, I dropped 18 seconds to a minute. Yeah, I was improving fast. Of course, it mostly came from me simply enjoying swim the more I did it, but that pattern would change later on. I also want to mention that this was the first meet my sister participated in. Afterwards, she got moved up to group 2, just like I was after my first meet. So she did she also did the 100 IM. Next, I want to jump to the next meet. So I had a habit of often forgetting that this meet existed. It took place on November 18th, 2017, I think. I don't even know because this event was just so forgettable. So I believe that the events I did were the 200 IM, 100 butterfly, and the 100 free. So the 200 IM was forgettable, the 100 fly I obviously got DQ'd on, and the 100 free was also forgettable. So my coach knew about me getting DQ'd in the last meet I did butterfly, so he signed me up here, and when I got DQ'd, he got really mad. That's what happened literally every time I got DQ'd for butterfly. But after the second time I got DQ'd, my coach decided that he wanted to have me do butterfly in literally every single meet. Yeah, totally a great thinking process. I eventually would do a butterfly without getting DQ'd, but that would be a little while. So now, overall, the rest of November and December of 2017 weren't that special, so let's jump to 2018. So this year was one of the craziest, if not the craziest year of my life. However, it was crazy in not just a bad way. Of course, my depression went out of control in February and March, but after that, which I commonly refer to as post-depression period part 1, life got really crazy in a good way. However, let's backtrack to January, more specifically January 6, 2018. So remember what originally was going to be my first swim meet? You know, the one that got canceled due to snow? Well, this basically was the meet I was supposed to do. So this meet took place in the 25-yard pool we swam at. A home meet. Before I mention the events I did, I want to discuss possibly the cringiest thing we did as a team. So now, I don't remember this meet all too well, as it has been over 3 years since it happened. But I remember that our entire swim team walked to the front of the pool and then did some random chant. It was a home event, so we were allowed to do it, but honestly, they shouldn't have allowed us to do it simply because of how dumb it was. So now for the actual swimming. So I believe I did a 100 freestyle, 100 breaststroke, and 100 butterfly. Once again, we see my coach constantly putting me in events that I do not want to do. I'm okay with the 100 breaststroke and the freestyle, but the 100 butterfly for the 3rd time in a row. Seriously? At this point, he's just trying to get me to rack up DQs. Anyways, for the butterfly, guess what happened? I got DQ'd. I'm not even surprised. My coach, of course, got really pissed at me, but come on. You've seen the past 3 meets what happens when you put me in a 100 butterfly. You know I hate the 100 fly, but nah, just gonna keep putting me in there because you want it to be absolute torture. The other 2 events were forgettable, but at least they were fun, unlike the fly. Now let's jump to March 2018. So this is a really chaotic month for me mentally, but I'm not going to discuss that too much. Instead, I'm only focusing on the meets. So this month also had 2 meets. The first was on March 3rd, 2018. This was the same meet as I did as my first meet from March of 2017. This meet was fun, simply because I didn't have to do a 100 fly. In fact, I actually did the same events as my first meet, except instead of a 100 IM, I did a 200 IM. As this was a smaller meet, and smaller meets don't do 100 IMs for 13 and a half. I managed to drop all of my times, but other than that, it was overall not very memorable. So between March 8th and March 13th of 2018, I didn't practice any, as I was at the mental hospital, since depression had just gotten that severe. It was quite rare for me not to attend a practice for this long, especially since I had to meet in just 2 more weeks. I won't state the details of this situation, as I already did in Storytime 10. I might also do a Storytime solely about the situation in the future, but overall, it's not really important in regards to swimming. However, I will mention that when my mom told my coach where I was at, according to her, he didn't seem to care. This information would be important in about a year. So now that I'm discharged and no longer depressed, I could get back to swimming. So about 1.5 weeks after I got discharged, I was at my next meet. It was the same meet that the pool where Michael Phelps swam at in Charlotte. So before I discuss this meet, I wanted to mention a dick move my coach made. So when registering, my mom accidentally put me as any day. So that meant that my coach could put me in either Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, as this was a 3-day event. My coach knew that we went to church. He hated that we went to church, as he was an atheist. So he decided to sign me and my sister up for just Sunday. I honestly can't get too mad, as my mom, while not meaning to, accidentally put any day, but he knew our schedule, so kinda rude of him to do that. What's worse is that we actually arrived at the pool on Saturday morning, expecting it to be on Saturday, and turns out our events were on Sunday. We didn't even get any notice either, so it was very rude of him. So now the meet took place Sunday, March 25th, 2018. Another thing too is that if he wasn't already a dick enough, my coach also signed me up for the 100 butterfly, 100 backstroke, and I think the 100 breaststroke. I ain't too sure. But once again, continuous putting me in the same events I despise. What's funny is that I literally asked him if I could do the 50 free multiple times at practice, and he still didn't put me in it. And then after I finished my final event, he asked me if I had the 50 free coming up. Uncool, man. Me and my mom didn't get any say in any of these events, so we abused that. Because if we did, sure enough, the only time I would ever be doing butterfly would be in the IMs, as I love IM. I'd also be doing 50 free every chance I got, as that is after all my favorite event and the event I want to get better at the most. Not only after seeing the future Olympian swim in the 25 seconds in June 2016, but also when I got 32.5 at the meet back in September. What makes this all the worse is that literally everyone else on the team got signed up to do 50 free. Yeah, this coach was being a jackass. Anyways, enough ranting. I want to discuss my events, more specifically the 100 fly. So this event was really special, as a miracle occurred. I did not get DQ'd. Yup, you heard me right. I actually did a 100 butterfly correctly in a meet. It was torturous. However, remember when I mentioned having to race a 17-year-old black dude? Yeah, this is what I was talking about. I was obviously in Heat 1. The only other person in that heat was a 17-year-old. He got a time of like under a minute 20, but his previous best was only like a minute 40. I got a minute 35, so I can probably say that he hasn't done this event since like 13. Damn, wish that could be me. My throat's starting to get a bit dry, but oh well. But the other 2 events really weren't that special, so overall, I consider this meet, despite getting my ass kicked by someone 4 years older than me, I'd still consider it a massive success. It interestingly would also be the second to last meet I ever did. So let's jump to 3 days later, on March 28th, 2018, so our coach hosted a party in order to celebrate the end of the short course season, as now it was almost April, and it was about time for the long course season. So we had the party. However, me and some friends saw some other friends out at tennis court, as there was a tennis court right by the pool. So we walked over there. Then I had the classic bright idea of trying to jump over the tennis net. You know, parkour, classic white people thing. Since I'm white, I decided to do it. But what occurred is exactly what you'd think would occur. I caught my foot in the net and tripped over it. In order to protect my head from hitting the concrete floor, I used my arms to save my head from it. So instead of bursting my head open, I only broke both of my arms. I actually didn't realize my arms were even broken at first. Like, I honestly thought it was just a scratch and they'd be alright. However, I had an extremely difficult time moving my arms around, so I thought that'd just go away. But in actuality, I completely shattered my left arm and got some minor fractures on my right arm. I'm right-handed, so it's all good. The pain didn't go away though, so we checked with the parent who was with us, who was by the way a nurse, and she determined that I probably needed to go to the emergency room. So my dad rushed me over and took me to the emergency room. The service was at the emergency room was pretty pitiful, but I'm not going to explain all that much since it's kind of unrelated to swimming. Anyways, they did all the x-rays and determined that both of my arms were broken, so as a result I had to wear 2 splints for about 5 days. So how did my coach respond to this? Well, he did let me borrow his phone so I could call my dad. Later that night, my mom texted him letting him know what happened. He never was sympathetic at all or wished me to get well or something soon or anything. Instead, his priority was when I was getting back to swimming. Yeah, forget that I broke both of my arms. When will I get back to swimming? God, this coach. This was also the question he asked all the time, as he really didn't care about me or how my arms doing. He just cared about swimming. So fast forward to exactly 1 week later, being April 4th, 2021, I had surgery on my left arm. Before this, I want to mention that Monday. So we had a meeting with our doctor. This would be where he'd said I need surgery. However, he determined that I no longer needed a splint on my right arm, so thank God. Anyways, the surgery on April 4th went well. Once again, my coach didn't really care, but overall, surgery went well. So now I was out of swimming for a total of 3 months. I would not go back to swimming until June 25th, 2018. During this time though, more specifically throughout the month of May, I did physical therapy. It was pretty easy and I managed to get back almost all of my strength on my left arm. Of course, I lost having 100% of my strength forever, as now I'm 16 and I still can't even bend my left arm completely like I could before breaking it. But overall, I was almost normal regarding my arm. Now, throughout this time period of inactivity, my coach pretty much tried to rush it. He was constantly asking when I was back at swim, and I'd always tell him that I don't know, which was true. I didn't know when I was going to go back. I'm glad this coach ain't a doctor, because if he was, he would probably be the most impatient doctor ever, which would put many people's lives at risk. Now, my first day back was June 25th. However, I could have gone back about 2 weeks earlier. My doctor said at our meeting on May 31st that I could go back to swimming. However, me and mom decided to not take any chances, so we actually waited until after Fuge. While my experience at Fuge was really bad, Fuge did at least give me an extra week for my arm to heal, so I'm pretty thankful for that. I also celebrated my 14th birthday up there, which by the way went absolutely horribly. And then I came back to swimming, so June 25th was the first practice I attended since March 27th. I do remember that while this practice was great, it was very rough. So I used to be the best swimmer in Group 2. In fact, had I not broken my arms, I would be moved up to Group 3 permanently. But after I broke my arms, I was no longer one of the best. In fact, I was one of the worst. But honestly, I didn't care. I never swam to be the best. I only swam to challenge myself because it was fun. However, my coach had a different idea. He tried to get me back to how I was before I broke my arms, which I think was extremely foolish. I think he should have just been really lenient on me and go easy, as it was after all 3 months since I last swam, so he kind of slapped me in the face by having us do 10 hundreds on a minute 30 interval at the practice of freestyle. So starting the summer of 2018, I think my coach got more angrier at me, mostly because I did only 2 practices a week. It made sense, as I was literally just getting back into it and breaking both of my arms and I shouldn't go full in. But he obviously didn't understand that, so I got pretty upset. In fact, I swam so little throughout the summer of 2018 that I barely have any memories of swimming that summer other than June 25th. What's even funnier is that I consider the summer of 2018 to be the best summer of my life. Coincidence? I think not. Then there was break time in August of 2018. During this break, we went up to Cincinnati, Ohio to visit the Creation Museum and Noah's Ark replica. I also began high school. Now let's discuss where I go to school and how much practices I attended. I was doing around 4 practices a week, by the way, starting now. So in May of 2018, I got accepted at early college. It's basically where you get a high school diploma and an associate's degree for free when you graduate. As a rising senior at the school now, I've got to say it was an awesome decision to go here. However, the school times work much differently than at other schools, so most schools begin at 7:45 and end at 3. However, for us, we began at 8:30 and ended at 3:45. Practices begin at 4:30, so to get the practice, I took the bus from my school directly to practice. Our bus was always late, so I generally would not arrive at practice until 4:30 exactly. So therefore, I normally was about 5 minutes late, as I had to change and also walk to there, because the bus parked at literally the opposite side of the pool. So therefore, I was about 5 minutes late. This really pissed my coach off, as now I was having 5 minutes less of practice. Oh no, 5 minutes is so bad. Yeah, that's how absolutely absurd my coach was. So now I want to mention my overall opinion on swimming now. So my motivation for swimming was shrinking starting September of 2018. I was demotivated because not only was the coach making me hate swimming, but also just seemed to get too repetitive, and I wasn't enjoying it anymore. So as a result, around October of 2018, we decided that now I was only going to do 3 practices a week. I should note that since the short course season began, we were doing 4, so now we weren't going on Wednesdays. We only went on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Saturdays. I say we, as my sister was also losing interest in swimming for the same reason as me. She also hated the coach for the same reasons I did. So let's jump to November of 2018, November 17th, 2018 to be more exact. So we had a meet that day. This meet would be significant for 3 reasons. The first is that it would be the only meet I ever did out of state, as this meet actually took place in South Carolina. The second is that it was my first meet in 8 months. And third, it was the last meet I ever did. Yup, the final meet. Thank God. And the final was because, just like the previous meet from back in March, we also have a bit of drama regarding this meet. So my mom this time made sure that me and my sister were signed up for only Saturday. However, our coach decided to put us on both Saturday and Sunday. First off, we aren't driving to South Carolina 2 days in a row. Secondly, we specifically selected Saturday only. But of course he didn't care and just put us on both anyways. So we decided that on Sunday, we were just not going to show up at all. It was especially great that on Sunday I was missing, as on that day I believe he signed me up to do the 100 fly for like the 8th billionth time. I thought I was done with the 100 butterfly after I successfully did it back in March. But no, this dude just wants me to constantly do my least favorite events in order to make it the least enjoyable for me. However, he also decided to try to make it torture as well on Saturday. While I was doing the 50 free and the 100 breaststroke, which are 2 events I really enjoy, he also signed me up to do the 200 backstroke. 200 of my worst stroke. What the hell, man? 100 backstroke already sucks, but 200 and on my first meet in 8 months? Yeah, you're ridiculous. Exactly why I was demotivated to swim. So now the events overall went well. The 200 backstroke was torture, but it was the first event I did, so we got that out of the way. The 50 free went really well, clocking in my record of 29.5 seconds. Then the breaststroke was pretty forgettable. So as mentioned before, we did not go to the Sunday meet, meaning I did not have to do the 100 butterfly. So when we got to practice that Monday, our coach was really pissed off at us because we didn't go to the meet on Sunday. Well, that's his problem, not mine. He's the one that signed us up for both days, despite our request to do only Saturday. So the blame is completely on him. Now, since this meet, my motivation for swimming started to deplete more heavily, so afterwards, I stopped going on Saturday practices, meaning I was only going to practice on Mondays and Tuesdays. This really angered our coach, and honestly, that's a good thing. He needs to know that we aren't satisfied with how strict he is, and that now we're going to go to less practices as a result. But of course, he didn't improve as a coach. Instead, he just continued to be a jackass. Next, I want to move on to 2019, more specifically, early January of 2019, as I'm not sure when the exact date was. So I was already signed up for this meet prior to November of 2018. However, after the November meet, I really wanted to stop doing meets since that would be the only way for my coach to not force me to do my least favorite events. At this meet, he signed me up to do the 100 fly, which I obviously did not want to do. He also interestingly signed me up to join 3 other boys into the freestyle relay. He did this in order to try to force me to come to do the butterfly, as if I didn't, then that means I would let the other 3 boys down. The other 3 boys were in groups 3 and 4, by the way, so I wouldn't see them at practice, so I just didn't come to this meet. Needless to say that he was really mad that I didn't come to the meet when I arrived at practice Monday, but I'm glad I didn't come. I didn't need to do another 100 fly. So now, our motivation for swimming just kept getting lower and lower. So my parents requested that me and my sister get pushed back to group 1, so that we would only be doing an hour each practice rather than an hour 15. So our coach did. However, he still forced us to swim the extra 15 minutes, simply because he just wanted to be a jackass. He knew why, he just didn't want to admit it because his coaching made us hate swimming at that point. I should note that now, yes, me and my sister were to the point that we hated swimming. Now let's move on to February of 2019. So at this point, me and my sister were just ready to quit swimming entirely. We were done with it. Our coach was being a jackass, it wasn't fun anymore, so this kind of started a feud in our family over it, as we actually had a pretty big argument about it in March. So my mom supported me and my sister. She hated this coach, maybe a bit more than me and my sister even, as she was fed up with his bullshit, especially in regards to meet and how he signed us up for meets. My dad, on the other hand, he really wanted us to keep swimming. He said that it was our only exercise and that if we stopped, we'd become fat. Me and my sister had a pretty big argument with my dad in March over this. My mom would then argue with him after us, and she finally talked dad into letting us quitting. Now let's talk about my last practice. It was on Tuesday, March 19th, 2019. So this practice, I remember that during practice, my coach yelled at me over something, probably for doing a stroke incorrectly or something. He then asked me the question, "Do you even want to get better?" I did not say a word to him. In fact, I just continued swimming. Then he just simply ignored me the rest of practice. What's really funny is that I didn't even know this would be my last practice, as my parents haven't told me and my sister that we were going to quit. But overall, I got the final laugh on that Saturday. So that Saturday, March 23rd, I would go as far to say that this would probably be in the top 10 best days of my life. So I have no idea why, but when I woke up, I was in a really good mood. That's kind of how my psychology worked. Some days, I just wake up in an extremely good mood, others, not so much. But that day, I thought it was going to be a great day for no reason at all, and turns out it was a great day, but actually for a reason. So Mom and Dad told us that around 1 that we were going to go out to eat for lunch. They put me in an even better mood, as I love going out to eat. But then they said they were going to the place that we were going to eat at. I got even happier. So I'm not going to mention this restaurant since it's only local, but I will say they probably have the best cheeseburgers in the entire world. Not only that, but they also had a balcony where you could play a ring toss game. To add all to that, nobody was there, so it was just us playing ring toss. It was really fun. But then we got our food, and the food was great, but what made it even better was that Dad made an announcement. He said that he decided to let us quit swimming. Thank God. Obviously, Mom talked him into let us quitting, but I'm glad that he was letting us quit. So you bet this put me in one of the best moods I'd ever been in. That afternoon, my mom emailed our coach letting him know that we were quitting. She never criticized him in the email. She just said that we were just not enjoying swimming anymore, and that it was in our best interest that we stop swimming, which was true. I'm not sure what his reaction was, simply because he never responded to the email. Yeah, instead of acting normal and just saying something like, "Thank you for letting them swim," or "Good luck on their future endeavors," or something like that, he just didn't respond. Absolutely pathetic and childish. So now I want to summarize why me and my sister quit swimming in a more professional tone. While some of it did have to do with us not enjoying swimming and losing the charm of it, most of the reason was from our coach. Our coach believed that swimming was more important than anything else. Me and my sister thought almost everything else was more important than swimming. The reason me and my sister swam was to have fun and to challenge ourselves. However, clearly, our coach treated swimming very seriously, and therefore, that really demotivated us. Even when I was swimming 5 days a week back in 2016 and 8 practices a week in the summer of 2017, I never took swimming seriously. I did it because it was fun and I wanted to challenge myself. However, at this point, our coach made swimming feel like a chore, and no longer was me or my sister encouraged to challenge ourselves with new times. Not only that, but the times we wanted to improve were constantly blacked out by our coach. He always put us in the events we did not want to improve in. Very rarely did he put us in the events we actually wanted to get better at. He also tried to dictate what days we did meet. So for these reasons, we left the team. So now let's go way back to Aki. So I briefly mentioned Aki at the beginning of this story time. He was obviously my best friend at swim, and he still is one of my closest friends to this day. Now, he actually started swimming a year before I did, but he also felt the same way about swimming that me and my sister felt. You see, our coach wasn't just a jackass to me and my sister, but he was also a jackass to Aki, as Aki had the same beliefs about swimming as us. So therefore, in October of 2019, he also left the team. Now, there's also another person I want to mention leaving. So this person is rather unique, as me, my sister, and Aki were only in group 2. This person was actually in the senior group, as she was one of the best on the entire team. So the main reason she quit was because of the conversation she had with the coach. I believe she stated that she could only do like 3 or 4 practices a week due to school and church. The coach then tells her that swimming is more important than school and church, and then she quit on the spot. I definitely support her decision, as this madman should not dictate hers or anyone's life. This happened sometime in January of 2020, by the way. But her story isn't even done yet. So the coach had a woman who coached at Mecklenburg to help with him. So she was talking to this woman, and the woman said that she disapproved of this coach's coaching. And remember, this woman coached freaking Olympians. When someone who has trained athletes to the Olympics says that they disapprove of your coaching, you bet that you are doing something wrong. I think that says a lot about how poorly our coach treated the team, and just how bad he was in general. Now let's move on back to when I quit swimming back in March of 2019. So how did I do now that I quit swimming? Well, first off, unlike my dad believed, I did not grow fat. But now let's discuss how I was doing mentally. So swimming really put a toll on my mental health, especially with the coach. However, after quitting, I was at probably my second happiest point I've ever been in my life. From April of 2019 all the way to March of 2020, I was at the second happiest point of my life. Post-depression period, part 2. Of course, nothing compares to how happy I was during post-depression period part 1, but 2019 as a whole became an absolute banger of a year, and overall, it was such an amazing year. Mostly because I didn't have a coach making me more and more demotivated about a sport that I used to love but now hated. So now, I want to discuss the future. It might seem crazy that I'm going to discuss the future about talking about a past event, but the reason is because my swimming career might not be over. So recently, I've considered swimming again. Now, my old coach is still the coach of my old team, so no way in hell am I rejoining that team. I've instead considered joining a team about 35 minutes away. However, if I join, then I will be swimming for only 7 months, as in January of 2022, I'm going to be off to college. So that's my main concern about it, as I would have very limited time with the team, but I think I can do it. And plus, I might be able to rejoin the team during the summer, so it's all good. I also have my driver's license, so I won't have to worry about transportation. Another thing I want to mention is that if I did swim with a different team regarding meets, if I joined this other team, I would love to do at least one meet before graduating, but it would require that I have at least some say in what events I do. With my old coach, I never got any say in it, as he always put me in the events I didn't like and did not care to get better at. 100 butterfly. But then he rarely put me in the events I wanted to get better at and wanted to challenge myself in, like the 200 IM or the 50 free. I think that if I was allowed to at least recommend what events I did, as well as disrecommend events, where I would say events I do not want to do, I think I'd be really satisfied doing meets. I'm not saying I want to control all the events I do, but I just want to at least mention what events I want to do as the events not to put me in. Therefore, I don't have a coach who continuously puts me in my least favorite events. And also let me make decisions for myself. I'm about to be 17 years old. I think I should be allowed to make these kind of decisions, don't you think? As for practices, well, I like to limit myself in how much I practice. I'd say maybe 2 or 3 1-hour practices is enough. Obviously, doing 8 practices a week was very excessive. In fact, I'd argue even doing only 4 was a bit excessive. So doing at most 3 practices a week, I think would be enough, as doing more than that is too much. Not only that, but considering the drive up there is much longer, I think it makes sense that I'd be doing less practices. So that's all I got for Storytime today. Next week, on May 14th, 2021, I'll be discussing Life After Depression Part 1. Anyways, that's all I got for today's video, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!